Dead by Daylight has obtained a lot of licenses over the years, and the criteria of what can be added is becoming more and more broad. While it does seem like a majority of the most deserving licenses are already in the game, I do think there are plenty of licenses that could easily fit into DBD. And one of those licenses is the subject of today's video, Dexter. Dexter as a character is difficult to say whether he would be a killer or a survivor. I do think you can make very good arguments for both roles being fitting. However, I do think that if he was placed in the role of a killer, he would need to have a power very similar to Ghostface. I do think as characters, they are similar enough where their powers would be too similar, so I do want to discuss the idea of Dexter being a survivor. Unfortunately, this would be a survivor-only chapter, as I can't really think of a noteworthy map, and I can't really think of a killer that would be more noteworthy than Dexter himself. So unless we got some sort of weird double Dexter chapter where it's Dexter as a killer and Dexter as a survivor, I do think this would have to be a survivor-only chapter. Like all other survivors, he would have 3 unique perks. These perks would be named Tonight's the Night, Dark Passenger, and Tranquilizer. Let's start with Tonight's the Night. This perk is meant to reward the effectiveness you have in chase. You gain tokens while being chased. Roughly 30 seconds is required to gain 1 token. You can get a max of 5 tokens. When you're working on a gen, you can spend all of your obtained tokens instantaneously to advance your gen's progress. It would be 5% per token, meaning a maximum of 25%. At face value, this does seem really strong because it is, but it does require you to stay in chase for 2.5 minutes to get the full 25%. And let's move on to Dark Passenger. Dark Passenger takes on a more literal meaning in this. After staying in the killer's radius, you will slowly gain 1 token. Once you obtain your token, you can spend it while sprinting, similar to Dead Hard. Once you use a token, you send out a shadowy version of yourself, similar to Mirror Image. It will walk in a straight line and navigate around tiles in order to keep walking in that straight line. It will eventually dissipate around 15 seconds after it's deployed, or if the killer swings and tries to hit it. This Dark Passenger model would be the exact same model you're using, including your cosmetics, and it also will copy your health state, like being injured or being healthy. It is also fair to say that it would not leave scratch marks, but it would create noises of being injured or just breathing and footstep noises. And lastly, Tranquilizer. This perk will be a difficult perk to balance, but I do want to try it out. This perk starts at the beginning of the match deactivated, and only activates once you yourself has a total of 1.5 gens progressed. That doesn't mean you need to work on 1.5 gens separately if you work the collective progression of a gen and a half. Once activated, you gain the new ability to jump into a locker and craft a tranquilizer, very similar to something like Flashbang. With the tranquilizer in hand, you can sneak up to the killer and hit them with it, instantaneously stunning them. Do keep in mind that you would not be able to use this while in chase, and if you got out of chase, you have to wait 5 seconds until you could use it, meaning you can't just hit the killer with a free stun anytime you want. And also, once you hit them with a stun, your aura will be revealed to them for about 10 seconds, and this would be increased by something like Lethal Pursuer. And once the tranquilizer is crafted, that survivor who crafted the tranquilizer cannot craft anymore, meaning you can't just create infinite free stuns. Meaning you would theoretically, in the worst case scenario, have 4 free stuns, but this can only happen while you're not in chase, meaning it's more of a tool to try to take aggro from a survivor being tunneled. And to further balance this, a killer cannot be stunned by a tranquilizer more than once in a 30-second time period. I'm sure you can tweak many of these numbers and make it a lot more balanced and a lot more fair, but this is just a rough draft of how this could work. These 3 perks, while they do provide unique gameplay, I do also think that they provide a similar experience to how Dexter is framed. And lastly, let's talk about cosmetics/appearances. I do think his default appearance should and would be his iconic green long sleeve and cargo pants. And then he could have a very rare outfit that turns him into his older self from New Blood. And then he could have 2 legendary cosmetics, if not more. The first cosmetic I'd like to see is Brian Moser, otherwise known as the Ice Struck Killer. I do think out of any of the existing people in Dexter, he will be one of the most deserving people to get a skin. And the same goes with Sergeant James Stokes. I do think as a character, he would make a lot of sense to be an alternate outfit for Dexter. And of course, all these characters from Dexter, Brian Moser, and James Stokes would all have their original actors reprising their roles for voice lines for their characters. And that's pretty much it. A very short concept. I kind of want to just throw this idea out there and see if it sticks. I'm not really confident with the tranquilizer one, as I do believe that it could be abused. Of course, that's a lot of perks in DBD right now, though. But this is a nice little rough outline of what they could do with a Dexter Survivor chapter. And thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please do consider leaving a like or subscribing even. I do also stream on Twitch. The link will be in the description below. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Have a nice rest of your night, morning, whatever it is for you. Bye.